Well, you know, I've been doing a few things with Mercedes-Benz off and on. We've done some projects with my magazine, Dazed and Confused. I mean, Mercedes is so present in fashion, sponsoring all the fashion weeks and making things happen in fashion globally. So, you know, for me it was about working with an iconic brand. It was also about working with, you know, design really. I mean, cars and the level of creativity that goes into the design, into the performance is exciting, and Mercedes-Benz are at the top of their game. So, you know, it's an exciting and interesting project to combine fashion with cars and make a film and a series of stills. So yeah, it was a pleasure to be invited to do this project. Yeah, so you know, the brief was how to combine the car with fashion, and for me it was all about movement, really about getting a sense of movement going on with the whole film from beginning to end. So, you know, nothing's static, everything's flowing, the clothes are flowing, and that's why Carly was so important, because she can really move, and when she moves she makes clothes look amazing, and having the car moving so you really get a sense of that, you know, that energy, that's, you know, what it's about. Driving's about moving, right, you know? You know, is a car a fashion item? It's a conceptual question. I mean, sure, you know, a car is an extension of your personality, it's an extension of your taste. So, you know, it's an important reflection of your lifestyle and of your place and the way you see the world. But, you know, can you call it a fashion item? Maybe some people can, some people don't. I mean, you know. Zeitgeist means, you know, being current, being of the times, being reflective of, you know, the culture that we live in. Yeah. It's a very German word, zeitgeist. Yeah. Yeah, I think the success of making a good magazine is reflecting the times that you live in, and also defining those times, so not just reporting on the culture, but also being actively involved in creating it by encouraging new creators, by really being a platform for discovering and helping to stimulate new talent. And that's what has made Dazed and Confused such a kind of, has given it its longevity really, because we've always been about that. Well, you know, each one's so different, because when you do interviews, you're really like, you're going into someone's world, and you're really, you know, tuning into their whole vibe and their whole kind of philosophy on life. So the best interviews are always when you can spend more time with somebody, you know, so when you can actually get a sense of how they work, how they think, and you can see that kind of marriage of their philosophy on life and their philosophy on work being exchanged. So I think some of the best interviews I've done, or some of the most memorable, have been probably with Patti Smith, when I ended up doing the interview in bed with her over several hours, which was quite an extraordinary experience, and feeding her cats and you know, sort of falling asleep and waking up, and the interview kept stopping and starting. And then David Bowie was really, really amazing, and he spent a lot of time telling me really dirty jokes, really long, protracted, dirty jokes, and that was a lot of fun. And then I guess Kate Moss was a very memorable interview, because it was really the first time we ever got talking, and then, you know, several years later, you know, certain kind of history's being made. So yeah. Dazed and Confused, is it a hipster Bible? I mean, I don't know. I don't like the word Bible. I don't really like the word hipster. So I guess for me it's just something that's there to inspire people and encourage people to be creative, and also to, it's kind of like to make a connection. I think Dazed and Confused has always been about outsiders, and it's about making outsiders feel that they are not alone in the world, but that they can, you know, non-conformists or outsiders can really be encouraged to be unique, and not feel that that's a stigma, or that they're weird, or that they're freaks, but that they have something unique to offer the world. And I think that the magazine helps connect those people to a certain type of culture, and helps propel those ideas forward. So call it what you want. And Everybody asks me, you know, is it the end of print? But absolutely not. No, print is not dead. It's just a different way of storytelling, you know, and we're living in an age now where we're globally connected, where information spreads super fast, so magazines have had to change and adapt to be relevant. And I think, you know, for me now, print is about being more beautiful, about being more collectible, about really something that can be almost like, if you see digital culture as being in the moment and the digital culture being like what's happening right now, this second, almost in real time, then that's like the show for me. That's like the show, like that's the kind of real point at where you can touch someone instantly and make a direct communication. So for me, the magazine becomes more like a souvenir, it becomes more like an artifact of that show, it becomes something collectible, referenceable, something where you can go more in depth to a certain kind of theoretical or conceptual way of looking at the world, whereas the internet will always deal with more, you know, the hard kind of engagement, the solid engagement. I enjoy everything. I enjoy diversity because, you know, I don't know, maybe it's just the way I'm wired, that I'm able to jump from one situation to another, and it keeps me on my toes. And, you know, I like keeping myself, I don't know, maybe a little bit on edge sometimes with my ideas. So I'm always exploring new things to do because it keeps me excited rather than staying in a comfort zone. I like to be outside of my comfort zone. So, you know, always trying to push what I'm doing with the magazines, push what I'm doing with my consultancies, you know, and it keeps things lively. Is fashion art? Is art fashion? I think it's what you want it to be. That's the great thing about fashion. It's a dream, you know, so make that dream whatever you want it to be. My personal style is pretty minimal, pretty carefree, but then also considered, a contradiction, you know, me. So, you know, Ryan McGinley and I have known each other for many years, and I think he first appeared in Dazed and Confused back in the day, probably in the early 2000s, in a story called Party Hard with him and Dash Snow and Dan Colin, when they were young artists in New York, really, you know, experimenting at the edge of what it meant to be an artist and live in New York and kind of define a new era for art and life. And, you know, he has been an incredible influence on a whole generation of photographers and fine artists, especially being like the youngest artist ever to exhibit at the Whitney. So, you know, I've been a fan of his, and he's been in the magazine, and then we've been working a lot in the last couple of years. We've traveled to Africa, we've traveled to Istanbul, we've traveled to Thailand. So, you know, there's always an adventure, there's always a sense of being on the road, there's always a sense of, you know, beautiful things happening, but also, you know, unexpected things that can creep up. And, you know, I love the fact that we're able to make this project together for Mercedes-Benz, because he's an artist who is also a nonconformist. He's an optimist, which is quite rare, and it's an interesting thing to find optimism as a form of rebellion, and he really manages to pull a sense of escapism, a sense of kind of you know, optimism and freedom in his work that's really rare. So combining that with Carly's also a kind of you know, carefree spirit, really, kind of almost like a hippie spirit, you know. I think combining that with Ryan and this kind of nonconformist car from Mercedes is a real on-the-road moment. And we're having fun because we're making a cat and mouse game between the car and Carly. So, I don't know, Ryan described it to me as punked. I didn't know what punked means, but it means to kind of like, you know, tease somebody or play a practical joke on somebody. So he calls it car punk. I thought that meant like putting a Mohican on the car and like splashing it with like paint and something, but no, it means teasing and a flirtation between Carly and the car, a back and forth, a kind of game, and it's quite slapstick and optimistic and fun and carefree, and then we drive off into the sunset or a rainbow. We haven't yet decided. It depends what the weather's going to give us today, but one way or another we'll drive off into a dream.